accustomed to doing something with speech, with action, with little electronic boxes, which I just remembered I did not turn mine off. Please join me in having a fast from the great disruptor. And there's one strategy of doing which is significant in spiritual practice, which is the choosing of a primary training object. Usually here we start with mindfulness of in-breathing and out-breathing. And then our project is to come home to this breathing whenever we can. And it's a project which reveals how utterly out of control the mind is. And so there's a kind of meta-level project, which is to accept the fact that it's really all out of control. And we practice with a giant question mark. What's happening? What is the experience of this moment truly like? There are sounds. And those sounds arise and pass away quite spontaneously. There are myriad sensations in the body. Tingling, vibrating, pressure, warmth, coolness, heaviness, contact. If you put aside the idea of hands, for instance, and allow awareness to open in the region of the universe that is your hands, what do you really find? I propose that you find life. And these sensations that are life are really beyond any word or description. We can use metaphors and similes, but bare attention would lead us to simply be with this. And there's Another astounding miracle that we call breathing and if you direct awareness to be in that which we call breathing, once again you find life. Each breath appears just like each sound out of emptiness. It doesn't exist, and then it does. In order to stabilize the mind, we can choose to follow, to attend, to embrace the sensations of breathing from start to finish of each breath. And I'm speaking of the actual sensations, not some image or fantasy or idea. For instance, we're not breathing in through the soles of the feet or through the crown of the head. They're the actual sensations of the expanding and contracting of the chest and abdomen, or at the nostrils, there are subtle sensations. Sometimes people create a practice where they're following the breath in through the nostrils and down into the chest and so on. This requires imagination. Stay, if you can, with the actual direct experiential facts, sensations, coming out of nowhere, disappearing. given the nature of human mind and life. Attending to the breath may be an untenable task. The mind gets all swirled up in desire and aversion and restlessness and sleepy dullness and doubt and emotions. These are not wrong or bad, they are life. And it's just as useful to pay attention to the experience of anger or hatred or jealousy or fear or sleepiness or wanting or worrying, to observe those phenomena as they are, as they exist in the body. So this is not a battle, it's not a war. It's a process of bringing illumination through mindfulness, through compassion. Seeing how things actually are right now. We sometimes speak of meditating for some duration, like a 10-minute practice or a 20-minute practice or an hour practice. This is a convenient way of structuring our time. And the reality is, there's only the meditation of this moment. And this moment is always a moment of starting all over again, of beginning completely fresh. It's now. It might be a moment of discovering that the mind has been wandering for minutes, seconds, minutes, longer. That moment of awakening is priceless. It might be that the mind begins to turn toward a thought. And awareness notices that. That moment is priceless. That moment is a moment of freedom. There could be a mind of sadness that is noticed for what it is, or self-hatred or other hatred, rigidity of thought or opinion. In the meditation of this moment, those could be illuminated. And then there's a body sitting and breathing. The only where to get to is here and right now. So it's this moment of sitting here and breathing. as we sit here in this delightful silence and stability, supporting one another, we carry out the great experiment of awakening. Some years ago, an old fellow from Sri Lanka came one time. His name was Ratnakara. He was a lay Buddhist teacher. He taught 2 or 3 places in the United States. I spent a week with him here. And he had a sort of refrain in which he said, mindfulness is everywhere. It's everywhere and all around you. The only way it can enter the world is through human consciousness. Why not cooperate? Being awake. What if it's true that there is a great longing for awakening that's not just personal, not just yours? A great movement, a great tide into which you can lean. One breath at a time. And please now, intentionally, mindfully, put aside the breath and take up hearing. Notice the sounds that are very subtle. There's a subtle ringing tone inside everyone's ears. Some people experience it as tinnitus or tinnitus, and it becomes really a problem. Then there's more overt sounds. Hearing.
Preparation take.
That was a bit loud. Very secretly, subtly slipping the plug in. So let's see, what's happening? Heart rate up? Let's see, how long does it take for the system to calm? One of the skills we actually develop is how to re-enter parasympathetic functioning. And we're all different that way.
What we take for reality is just a vision of what we can see. And it's so much more than it seems to be as far as we know. this moment and be totally here. Still can't figure out what it's all about, but it's begun to come clear. What we do is what we are, so much more than the ashes of stars. We can choose to change, but we can't stay the same. Always going, we never arrive. Even the dead may be really alive. It's all just rearranging the material plane. Make the most of this moment and be totally here. Still can't figure out what it's all about, but it's begun to come clear. We can't lose what we can't save. We're no more than the crest of a wave. We're here and gone as the patterns roll on. We all die, so what's to fear? Might as well be glad we're here. We're bound to disappear into a different form. Make the most of this moment and be totally here. Still can't figure out what it's all about, but it's begun to come clear.
Sound. Hearing consciousness come into being, disappear. Sorry about that little jolt. Yikes. Now that the bell has rung, have you stopped meditating? Did you forget? It's so easy. Mr. Jim, would you be willing to do some mindful movement? Thank you.
That sound do that?
Hmm?
I didn't catch that. How did that happen?
Jim just pointed to the wave in the rug and wondering if the sound blew it up off the floor.
So we get in touch with our feet on the floor, and our toes and heels can be used as a rocker. So there's lots of sensations in the bottoms of the feet when we move the heels off the floor and then move the toes off the floor. Lots of little nerve endings, tendons, muscles. There's all kinds of things going on down there. There's lots of bones too. Have to be coordinated. So we'll take our stance with a gap between our feet about the same width as our hips or our shoulders. Soften the knees. Take a nice full breath in and sink. Then on the inhale, the arms just rise and release. So some of the sensations that we notice are on the surface of the skin. You might feel the fabric of our clothes rubbing on the skin, or the movement of the skin against the air, lifting and opening. There's movement across the front of the chest. And then sinking again. There's activity in the knees and the hips and the shoulders. Lots of places to settle momentarily and then move on. What else is talking to us? And we can reach overhead, open up the shoulders in this direction, painting a rainbow to either side, and using the imagination to see those colors in the mind's eye, if not on the ceiling. And reaching up, separating clouds. We sink, cross the wrists, come up the center, turn the palms over and open. So ordinarily we're not aware of all these sensations in the body because of the trance of our interior monologue or dialogue. Depends on how many our home upstairs. We suddenly turn and lift the palms and feel the hips in their complexity. One hip pulls back and the other one releases forward. And we can scan the whole room with our visual sense. And then dropping the arms back, we'll turn the shoulders all the way around, as long as that's not harmful to you. Be gentle with yourself, but if it's possible, it feels really good to open up in all directions. So we do these simple, relaxing movements. Let's lift across, lifting the heel. These simple, relaxing movements bring us into the body and grounding ourselves in the sensations of it. Simple shift of weight. One leg supports the whole system, the other leg is empty. Just that rhythm sets up a rhythm of pleasure in the body, and it's inviting us to stay with the body, turning, gazing at the moon, activating more softness in more joints. These sensations, moment to moment, all the way across a gesture, starting up, descending, lifting, and switching, going forward, pressing. But there's momentary, I don't know what you call it, events, I guess. Sensation events. Mind moments. Mindful moments. One gesture, many movements. Now we're going to reach across and focus on the palm. Let the other palm face the earth and come across. We switch hands and keep the general rhythm and intensity constant, but a lot of different positions for the hands. A lot of different positions in the hips and the shoulders. Okay, and we'll open the stance a bit. Some people say this is their favorite part because we get to talk to the whole building. Reach down and splash in the sea and listen to the movement of fabric, the squeaks on the floor. Riding the waves. Opening the arms, come forward, turn the wrists. Palms up, palms down. And back to the center. We'll step out to the other side, splash in the sea. Synchronized swimming in the ocean of chi. Riding the waves. And opening the arms one more time to go through the third part of the rocking motion is called the pigeon. And I have no idea why. Never seen a pigeon do this. But someone yesterday said they never do it when we're watching. All right, up on the toes, we'll soar with the eagles and the cranes. And then turn the wheel. Change direction. And back to the center. Lift one arm and one leg. And then centering breath. And then there's another, that's the end of the 18-step Shibashi routine. There's another form that I just rediscovered. We'll open to the side and breathe in. Then bring the hands down behind the skull to the neck as you breathe out. Then breathe in and come up to the crown. And breathe out to the shoulders. Then breathe in as you press down. And breathe out and relax the arms. Just pause for a second. And then make a heart by touching your index fingers and your thumb together on the small of your back, and take a breath in. And then push forward with two fists, breathing out. Breathe in, lift. And breathe out, press down. Open to the side. Down the back. Lift up to the crown. Down to the shoulders. Breathe in and press. Breathe out and relax. Just feel the vitality in the body. Reach back, make the heart. Breathe in. Breathe out, forward. Breathe in, lifting. Turn your wrists and breathe out. And again, come to stillness. Feel the effects of movement. Sink and open. Drop the chin. Raise the chin. Drop to the shoulders. Keep going, breathing in. And rest. Aware of a standing form, filled with vitality. Reach back. Breathe in. Breathe out forward. And in. Turning the palms down. Breathe out. So the breath comes easy. The body's alive. What is it telling us? What can we feel? What can we hear? What can we see deep inside? And then open up to the side one more time and just come up overhead and down the front. And sharing this time together always brings gratitude to my heart. Thank you for your attention. And we'll see you next week, I hope.
Kate is in Europe, Denmark. In fact, hello, Kate and P, if you happen to be tuning in. Hope you're having a wonderful time. Missing you here. Among the many, many, many things that Kate does to support us as a community, she does all my voicemail and scheduling and a ton of other stuff. So I'm flexing my muscles and certain muscles. Announcements. I didn't bring a list, so we always need volunteers. In fact, we need a volunteer coordinator. The volunteer coordinator position is a very privileged one here in the community, in that one gets to be at the hub of a tremendous amount of connection and communication. And unlike, one could think, oh, a volunteer coordinator, it means I have to get all this work done. The primary job of the volunteer coordinator is to support the volunteers in having a good time and being present while they're doing their work. Because getting the task done is important, and we get a lot done. People, please raise your hand if you volunteer in any way at PIMC. Look at this. This is your place. It truly, literally, no one owns it. It's a nonprofit. So your participation and contribution in various ways, and particularly including volunteerism, is your membership. So if you have a longing to be really connected in a variety of levels in the community, consider the volunteer coordinator position. There's still time to hack 12 days out of your calendar and come to Nelson, BC for a retreat in a few weeks. For most people, there never really is a good time to go on retreat. Life is always saying, too much, too busy, you can't afford the time. But it'll change your life. And then there's a retreat with me also later in July at Brighton Bush Hot Springs. And I believe there's still room in that. They haven't told me there isn't. Gregory Malouf is here. My wonderful friend and Dharma colleague, Gregory Malouf, and he has the opportunity to meet, you have the opportunity, 3 of you have the opportunity to meet with him for 20 minutes in the meeting room over here afterwards, and there's a sign-up sheet at the back, or just go directly to see Gregory. Oh, and there's the reminder to support PIMC financially, to take the delight, to actually find that way of the giving, which you can do with your volunteerism, but also to give financially and to notice how good it feels. That there are so many things we can do with our discretionary income, and to support PIMC and to be sure those doors stay open and that we develop a community that lasts far into the future. There's a certain great delight in that. So I invite you to take advantage of the Donna, what do we call it, the box now, or to go online and make a contribution there, or set up a monthly contribution. That's the best for us, for the center. Okay. I have a real bouquet I'm going to pass around. It's if one looks at Tibetan iconography, you'll see with Avalokiteshvara, the archetype of Tibet, founder of Tibetan Buddhism. You see he has in one hand, and various other archetypes have this as well, they have a bouquet, and there's an unopened lotus, a fully opened lotus, and a wilted lotus. Past, present, future. And here we have a true bouquet. This is a very loving bouquet. I saw it on the way in as I got out of my car. You have here the very beautiful little bud. This is like the teenage, yes, about to go to the prom, or maybe part with. We don't have the prom one here quite yet, but this is like looking forward to the prom. And then there's blossoming, and then fully blossoming, and the sun is doing a bit of a number on you. Your skin's getting a little wrinkled, and have to use cortisone on this and that. And then it gets a little bit. There's a little bit of. You need more and more dental work. And then there's where there was flower petals. Would you come and get it and just pass it around and delight in the reality bouquet. Come on. It was working earlier. It'll come. Oh. Come on. Maybe it's too fast. There we go. There we go. Well, I'd be tempted just to do that for 45 minutes. When I was a kid in Montreal, I discovered that if I blew bubbles out my window at 30 or 40 below, they would go out and they would land on the snow and they would stay there for a long time. Quite interesting. So, what does something like that make you think of? Other than inanity. Raise your hand, maybe. Just, please. Impermanence. Delight. Carefree. Fun. Could we close the windows on that side, please? I was at the Rose Festival parade yesterday, and they were selling these, and I fought it off, and my daughter insisted on buying me one. I'm not quite sure what it is about. I used all their bubbles up very quickly, but I'm not sure why it's difficult with this bubble. I have to do a lot of investigating. Why is it hard to keep the bubble stream going? So I want today to bring us back once again, as we were last week, on the theme of impermanence. And I want to invoke Ruth Denison, my great inspiration and mentor, genius of teaching Dharma. And a lot of what I intend to do in the next 40 minutes is very experiential. So I invite you to notice, as though impermanence weren't screaming at us with the brilliance of a million suns right now, but to emphasize that reality of impermanence. Notice this drum. And then spoken word is a necessarily punctuated phenomenon. I use Dragon Dictate to send emails and to do most of my writing. And when I am speaking to Dragon Dictate, period, new paragraph, I tend to speak very carefully and clearly, because as good as it is, it does much better if one pauses a slight bit between words and enunciates them carefully. And we can see in speaking this way that speech is a rather quick staccato repetition or enunciation of different words which create meaning because of their different vibratory patterns. And we run that together, and then we speak quickly, and then, but it's still always, as is everything in the universe, everything exists in polarities. We have the vicissitudes of life. Pleasure and pain, gain and loss, happiness, sadness, warm and cold. Everything has its opposite. This is the yin-yang. Music exists because of impermanence. In fact, everything exists because of impermanence. Everything this side of the great flash, the Big Bang, the burp, everything this side is in constant, utter flux. Right? There are no nouns. That's an interesting one? The earth is an epiphenomenon. It's a something that crystallized and it's solidified, and here we are. And in cosmological time, it'll be eaten up by the sun and be gone. Right? Whenever I speak of this, I think of I once heard from Jack Simura this truth, that the gold in my ring and your rings, it arose in the universe because of the explosion of stars, supernovas. Planetary systems be damned. So we're wearing the bones of previous time. So there's intermittent sound and some words Tibetan teacher Longchenpa. In the forest, by the example of dead leaves, come to realize that the body, youth, and senses change gradually and do not possess any true essence. By the example of empty lotus ponds, come to realize that various objects of desire, wealth, and prosperity are finally going to change, that there is no true essence in them, and that what is accumulated will be exhausted. Come to realize that various objects of desire, wealth, and prosperity are finally going to change, that there is no true essence in them, and that what is accumulated will be exhausted. Imagine living with that really true for us. There's that kind of longing for security, for financial security, for relationship security, for national security, and yet it really is totally unstable. Empires come and go. The nations at the center of empires tend to get very weird as the empire goes out of control. As the standard of living in the empire, that which was the center of the empire, begins to lose its hegemony and control of the resources elsewhere, there's a drop in standard of living always. And as that happens, people go pretty crazy. We have lots of these in history. It's well documented what happened with the Brits after World War I. Right? Challenges. So, realizing the various objects of desire, wealth, and prosperity are impermanent. By the example of the change of days, months, and the four seasons, come to realize that the blossoming spring flower-like body is subject to change as time passes. Its youth fades away, and the arrival of the Lord of Death is certain. Blossoming spring flower-like body. As I was putting this sort of extra strength cortisone on the eczema on my thing this morning, I was reflecting. My father had this. My father had something very similar. And if we were to think, how many orthotics do you wear? Right? I've got my shoe orthotics. I've got fancy sewing pins in my knee from when my quads were ruptured. Prescriptions, crowns, dental implants, glasses. It's a lot, isn't it? And why do we do that? It's because it breaks down. It's breaking down. And we can eat the best health foods and do the most yoga and be in the most loving relationship and have all the good things, have a new this and a new that, and it still breaks down. My daughter Tara has worked for a year and a half in trauma unit in OHSU, and she's been surprised how few people have teeth. Well, it's mostly dentures at the people that are coming in. So impermanence, our teeth are impermanent. Have you noticed how impermanent relationships are? sometimes long ones, right? 30, 40, 50 years. For a while, a long time ago now, 20-some years ago, I worked at the Willamette Falls Hospice, and as a social worker. And my job was to go into the homes and meet with people and write a, quote, psychosocial assessment. And many of the people that I visited had been married for 50 years. And there they were, facing the end of their 50-year run. And I found the perfect way to find out about them. I hated the kind of social work style conversation that I started with. And instead I would say, well, I've been married for 12 years or so was then. I've been married for 12 years, you've been married for 50. How have you pulled that off? And they would just tell me their life story. It's wonderful. And then how is it as you look forward to this ending? Then we really got into deep stuff. By the example of the fall of ripened fruit, come to realize that all, young, adult, or old, are subject to die, that the time of death is uncertain, and that what is born will die. By the example of the fall of ripened fruit, come to realize that all, young, adult, or old, are subject to die, and that the time of death is uncertain, and that which is born will die. Kind of makes life precious, doesn't it? Makes every time we get a chance to be with our loved one, or we wake up in the morning and we're still walking. I don't know, I haven't actually thought about whether it's too weird or not, but a common thing that occurs to me when I meet people is, and I sometimes say it, is, I'm so glad we both survived to meet again. It's such a pleasure to meet you. And I've had a few at this stage in my life, 68, almost 69. I've had a few big losses. You know, best friend disappeared one day with a stroke. And others, my parents and friends. So we can look toward that and become grim. And there is that very sobering phenomenon of reflecting upon this. But the intended resultant of it is joy and freedom as we observe the miraculous dance, wherever that bouquet is, that miraculous dance of beginning and ending. By the example of the arising of reflections in ponds, come to realize that the various phenomena appear but have no true existence. They are like illusions, a mirage, and a water moon, and they are certain to be empty of true existence. Now that's getting pretty wild, isn't it? By the example of the arising of reflections in ponds, come to realize that the various phenomena appear but have no true existence. Existence meaning there's no nouns. They are like illusions, a mirage, and a water moon, and they are certain to be empty of true existence. I should set this up. Yes. Please, dear friends, notice that you're sitting here. And then I invite you to let your eyes close And bring awareness into that region of the universe you think of as your hands. And what do you find? Do you really find hands? Or do you find tingling, vibrating life? Shifting, allowing awareness to open in the region that you think of as your face, my face for each of us. Is there a face there really? Or are there sensations? And the rest of the body, the contact of the body with clothing. Do you find anything solid? And then we have our familiar close friend, the breath. Is there anything solid to the breath? Or, I guess differently put, can you find anything like a breath? Or do you find sensations? And do any of those sensations last more than a millisecond? They may repeat, but do they actually last? And if we were to, as we say, take the breath, the sensations of the breath, as our concentration object, our meditation object, how long does that concentration last? The mind wanders, the self, the I that makes the intention to stay with the breath lasts that long. And then notice the reality of the wandering mind. It's one of its primary characteristics is it's impermanent. Every thought self-liberates, self-destructs. Sometimes, for instance, in worry, thoughts will repeat and repeat and repeat and repeat. But if we observe the process of them, they are flashing into being and then disappearing. Please conjure up some story from your past. Maybe something you think of as unfortunate. This bad thing happened to me. Notice how it is. How is it? Does it have any shred of permanence? Or is it really a thought that exists for a second or two? And if we were to bring awareness back to breathing, and then notice to where the mind is drawn. It could be to the sounds, could be to the body, could be to a pain, could be to an idea. It would seem that all that exists are these miraculous impressions arising in this moment of consciousness. It's as though we've gone to a magic theater. And we're in a complete immersion experience, one level of which, close in, is our thoughts and feelings and emotions and stories. Another level is the sensations in what we call my body. And then the body has ways it relates to its environment through the sense doors: hearing, seeing, smelling, tasting, touching. It also has a mental environment. And I want to do a few experiments with sound, noticing how sounds really do come out of nowhere. They don't exist, and then they do, and then they're gone. in a practice like this, I find it helpful to stay anchored somewhat with the breath. Breath and a certain emptiness of field, and then hearing. Impatience could arise. We're so used to being stimulated, entertained, different from sitting by the river and watching a raindrop plop in. Sabbe Sankara Anicca, said the Buddha. All conditioned phenomena are impermanent. Can we be content to abide in this moment? Or more accurately, I guess, can we learn to accept the reality of this moment more and the coming and going of pleasant and unpleasant phenomena? And let us switch awareness now from the ear door primarily to the body door, and bring awareness into your, what you conventionally call your hand, your non-dominant hand. Feel the life in what we think of as the fingers. And let the hand slowly, or first notice the intention in the mind, and then let this hand ever so slowly find its way such that the middle finger will touch your nose. But let it take quite a while. Notice the change. Notice this is none other than impermanence. Sounds come and go. Notice there's a certain first moment when the heat or the energy between the hand and the face becomes sensed. And then notice the first moment of contact. Contact begins, and then let the finger move away from the nose. Contact ends. Begins and ends. Let it happen a few times. Touch, no touch. Perhaps you can become aware of the energy field, which is the body, and the energy field, which is the hand. And notice how they touch one another. And now letting that hand find its way down. Dropping slowly. Notice the distance between the hand and the face increases. And then we find a body sitting, awareness present. Maybe the mind has comments it makes. Change is the constant. We take refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. In that which is awake, in the way things actually are, and the community that supports us in this realization. To take refuge in anything else is to take refuge in arising and vanishing. So then we're faced with the extraordinary conundrum, I guess, or what is it that's awake? So please notice the fact that the eyes are closed and there's no visual objects. How is that known? And then notice the intention prompted by this voice to allow the eyes to open. And then notice how they open. Takes work, takes intention, they don't open by themselves. What is it that wills this opening? And then when objects appear, what is it that's aware of these objects? And these objects we know are all temporary. They're not nouns, they're verbs. Seeing and knowing it. The Buddha said, in the seeing, only the seen, no seer is to be found. It's more and more refined, doesn't it? Mysterious. So take a moment to stretch a little bit, to move. But don't abandon the presence of the knowing of change. Stand up. We do honor this change in many ways in human life, in our art, in other ways. I want to play you a little song that you'll recognize. It's got a couple of hard chords. Boy, it's long. Learning how to play bar chords is quite a task. Shifting between them. F sharp minor, boy oh boy. B minor. Quite a learning curve. So you'll recognize, some of you will recognize this. Sit by my side, come as close as the air. Join in if you can keep up with my weird time. Sharing a memory of gray and, wander in my words. Dream about the pictures that I play of changes. Green leaves of summer turn red in the fall, to brown and to yellow they fade, and then they have to die, trapped within the circle time parade of changes. Moments of magic will glow in the night. All fears of the forest are gone. But when the morning breaks, they're swept away by golden drops of dawn, of changes. Passions will part to a warm melody, as fires will sometimes turn cold, like petals in the wind. We're puppets to the silver strings of souls, of changes. And changes result in tears. Your tears will be a trembling now where somewhere else. One last cup of wine we will pour, and I'll kiss you one more time and leave you on the rolling river shore of changes. F every single nanosecond is nothing but change. Every resistance to that is dukkha, right? Is suffering. And when we mistake this now, this verb, this living, changing being as a self, which is the primary delusion, we suffer. I mean, the whole of the Buddha's teaching is right in that. To the degree we can open and realize it's changing, it's changing, it's changing, then we can be in the middle of the dance of life. And this isn't a teaching that says don't engage. I think it actually says engage fully. Well, actually, it can go both ways. There's the neti path, which says not this, not this, not this, not this. Or the, I forget the word for it, but the positive path, via positiva, which is it's this and this and this, and awakening, freedom is this and this and this. And as long as it includes everything, it's the same path, same freedom. So I invite you to take these suggestions of anicca, not permanent, and to find ways to play with them in your life, like that bubble thing. When I saw those bubbles yesterday on the bridge, and I was watching the parade, my first thought was, wow, look at that. It's just, of course it was happening everywhere around us, the children playing, and because there is nothing but, in every nanosecond, phenomena are occurring in consciousness and then vanishing. So, thank you for playing. I'm really glad that you come to the party. And please let's make a big circle and we'll have a little ritual with the kids. Excuse me. No kids? We could just blow out the candle ourselves. Can't find the what? Shoot. Right, all right. They escaped. They're out in the back paddock. Standing in contact with life, with another manifestation of the earth, posing as a human being for a little while.
May all pizza be eaten? Sausage.
Well, no, that's a variation. Want to do that first?
Yes.
May all pizza be eaten.
May all pizza be eaten. May all pizza be eaten. Sausage. Sausage. Sausage.
Thank you.
We're actually the actual singers for the actual
Okay.
stuff.
I heard some time ago that if the folks in the spiritual tradition can't make fun of themselves, you're in deep doo-doo. If you're taking yourself too seriously. May I hold your hand? Thank you. May I hold your hand? Thank you. Holding hands is not required.
Holding feet is required.
So, here it is. We're in this circle again. There have been, thousands, I guess, of these circles in this room. We come together, we hold hands for a moment. We give the hand on our left a little squeeze. May you be happy. And you get to be as creative as you want in your own heart and imagination. What would you wish for this person? And then to the person on your right, giving that hand a little squeeze. This is a being flashing through life. So many dreams and hopes and aspirations and such potentials for beauty and joy and anguish and dissolution. So why would we not love each other? It's only in ignorance that we don't. So to the person on your right and the person beyond them and to the persons in all the homes around us and in this city and in all cities, to our brothers and sisters of the air, the earth, and the waters, sending our deepest wishes for love and compassion and awakening. Well, I think we have our traditional song to sing. Please do come and join us after we're done in coffee and tea and other goodies. It's potluck. There's food, not just goodies. There you go, my dears.
May all beings be happy. May all beings be happy. May all beings be happy. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Wow, that was beautiful. All right, and now we have the tradition of blowing out the candle. Would you guys like to get closer? I see. I think we're going to have a redo. But wait till the right time, okay? On the count, the usual count. 1, 2, 3, blow. Yes, yay. I, me, mine. Yes. So thank you, my dear friends. Thank you, those who joined us on the internet. Very grateful for your presence. Please have a lovely potluck and see you soon. Take a moment to introduce yourself to your neighbors too. That's a major part of it, isn't it?